Welcome to our channel. Today we're going to be diving into Born Rich by Bob Proctor.
Oh, this is a good one.
If you're looking for a little extra motivation in your day,
Okay.
or maybe some of those personalized zodiac affirmations, check out affirmifyjourney.com. They've got some really great resources.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Born Rich, what's it all about?
Well, at its core, it's about realizing your potential, especially when it comes to money and success, you know?
Right.
And what we have is we have excerpts from the book itself, and we also have a couple of forewords from people whose lives were like totally transformed by it.
Yeah, the forewords are really interesting, actually. I mean, they really drive home the point that this book is not just theory, right? It's like it's had real impact on people's lives. Like, for example, Sandra Gallagher. I mean, her story is incredible.
Oh, tell me about it.
This woman, she was a successful lawyer.
Yeah.
And then she reads Born Rich, and she's like, nope, I'm doing something else.
And changes careers completely.
Yeah. Yeah, and becomes this, like, major figure in the personal development world.
All because of the ideas in this book.
Yeah. Like, that's powerful stuff.
It really is. It really is. It makes you think, like, how many other Sandras are out there?
Yeah.
How many people are just, not living up to their full potential?
And that's what Proctor's getting at with this whole most people are extras in their own movie thing.
Yeah, yeah. It's such a striking image, It makes you stop and ask yourself, am I really the star of my own life?
Or am I just kind of going through the motions, letting other people write my script?
Exactly.
A little bit of a wake-up call for sure,
Yeah. It makes you think about, like, those dreams you've set aside or those times you've let fear kind of, like, hold you back.
For sure. And that takes us right into, like, one of the big themes of the book, right?
Yeah.
This whole idea of taking control of your destiny.
She's like in control. Yeah.
And for Proctor, a big part of that is understanding your relationship with money.
Yeah.
Now, he's not saying money's everything,
Where?
but he is saying it's important.
Right, right. But it's not the be-all and end-all. What's interesting is how he positions money as a tool.
Yeah.
It's not the end goal itself, but it's a servant,
A servant, yeah. A means to an end.
Exactly. It's something that can help you achieve your goals, help you live a fulfilling life.
And he challenges a lot of our common beliefs about wealth, like the whole it's all about luck thing.
Yeah, he debunks that myth right away.
Yeah, he says, while luck might play a small role, true wealth stems from a combination of effort.
Right, aligning yourself with those principles of success.
Yeah.
And maybe most importantly, understanding how money works.
Yeah. It's like he's saying, don't just wish for wealth.
Right.
Understand it.
Understand it.
Yeah. He even uses this, like, really striking example of this guy, Mr. Chapman, who, like, literally died with a fortune hidden away.
Oh, yeah, I remember that story.
Yeah. It's like kind of a cautionary tale,
Yeah.
It's like, what was the point of all that effort if he never let himself enjoy it?
Right, right. It highlights the futility of just, like, accumulating wealth for wealth's sake, If you never use it to make a positive impact or even just enjoy it yourself.
It's like money should be a tool for living, not something to be, like, feared or hoarded.
It makes you think about your own relationship with money, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. I mean, are we letting fear hold us back?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we, like, actually using money as a resource to create the life we want?
Right. And that kind of connects to another key idea that Proctor emphasizes, the power of the mind to actually shape our reality.
Yeah, the whole thoughts become things
Great.
concept.
Right. And he uses this great analogy of, like, how the first chair was built. It all started with someone having a mental image of it.
Right.
It wasn't luck or chance.
Yeah.
It was deliberate creation that began in the mind.
And then there's that story of the farmer and the minister. That one always gets me.
Oh, yeah.
I love that story.
Where the minister's, like, complimenting the farmer on his beautiful farm. And the farmer says, yeah, but you should have seen it when God had it all to himself. And it's, like, such a funny example, but it makes such a profound point,
It does. It's funny, but it really illustrates that point that what we focus on, what we hold in our minds, often becomes our reality. Even in the face of like actual abundance, if we're focused on lack, that's what we're going to experience.
Yeah. It's like we're constantly projecting our thoughts and beliefs onto the world around us.
Exactly.
And then we're surprised when those things manifest.
Yeah. So the question is, what kind of reality are we creating for ourselves? Are we focused on lack and limitation? Or are we cultivating this mindset of abundance and possibility?
Yeah. It's a really important question to ask ourselves. And it brings us to another point that Proctor makes. Simply understanding these ideas isn't enough.
Right. It's not just about passive knowledge. It's about applying these principles in our lives. Yeah. Like, we got to walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
Exactly. He really emphasizes the importance of persistence. He draws inspiration from Napoleon Hill's work.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that quote?
Oh, yeah.
There may be no heroic connotation to the word persistence, but the quality is to the character of man what carbon is to steel.
Mm-hmm. It's a good one.
It really underscores that power of consistent effort, in shaping our destiny.
Yeah. And it's not just about abstract principles either. Like, he tells this amazing story about John Canary, who was determined to become a successful seminar leader.
Right, despite facing all kinds of setbacks.
Yeah, like rejection after rejection. But he just kept going, driven by his vision.
That's such a classic example of how persistence can really pay off. It's
Yeah.
not about being lucky or having special talent. It's just about consistently showing up, refining your approach, and never giving up on what you truly want.
Yeah. And I think, like, we all have dreams we've given up on too soon, right?
Yeah.
Maybe because we didn't really believe in ourselves, or we let a few setbacks, discourage us.
Yeah, and that's where Proctor challenges us to dig deeper, to tap into that inner strength and determination we all have.
Yeah.
To remember that we're capable of so much more than we often believe.
Now, this is where things start to get really fascinating.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Proctor introduces this idea of the law of vibration and attraction, that, like, attracts like.
Yeah.
So he's basically saying that everything in the universe, including our thoughts, is energy vibrating at a certain frequency.
Right. It's a concept that resonates with a lot of spiritual and philosophical traditions.
Yeah.
And Proctor brings it into the world of personal development,
Yeah.
saying that our thoughts actually attract experiences that match their frequency.
So if we're constantly thinking about lack and limitation, we're more likely to experience those things in our lives.
Exactly. We're putting out that vibration, so to speak,
Mm.
and we're attracting similar vibrations back to us.
But the good news is, like, the reverse is also true.
Exactly. If we can consciously choose to focus on thoughts of abundance, gratitude, joy, we can actually attract more of those experiences into our reality. It's about becoming aware of those habitual thought patterns and making a conscious effort to cultivate a more positive, and empowering mindset.
Right.
Yeah.
But, like, how do we actually do that? It's one thing to understand the concept, but it's another thing to actually change our thinking, right?
Yeah. That's where the real work begins. It's about becoming mindful of our thoughts, recognizing those negative patterns, and then consciously choosing to shift our focus. And it's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing practice.
So it's not just about positive thinking. It's like a deeper shift in our beliefs and attitudes.
Right. It's about recognizing that our thoughts have power,
Yeah.
They shape our reality, and we have to take responsibility for the kind of reality we're creating.
It's like that law of vibration thing really makes you stop and think.
It does.
Like, what kind of vibrations am I sending out? What am I attracting into my life with my current thoughts and beliefs?
It's a powerful question to consider.
Yeah, it really is. And it's a question that could lead to, like, some really profound insights. Because once you start to see that connection between your thoughts and your experiences, it's like, wow, I actually have more control over my life than I thought.
Right. And that's a very empowering realization.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's a realization that can lead to, like, some pretty amazing transformations.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Speaking of transformations, Proctor doesn't just stop at, like, the mental aspect, right?
Right.
He also encourages us to embrace risk-taking as a path to, like, really unlocking our potential.
He argues that stepping outside of our comfort zones, embracing challenges, it's essential for growth.
Yeah.
He uses this great analogy of the high diving board. As kids, we all admired those who would just jump off the highest diving board without hesitation. But so many of us were too afraid to take that leap ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's such a great metaphor for how fear holds us back in life,
Yeah, for sure.
We see other people achieving their dreams, taking risks, experiencing these incredible successes, but we hesitate to do the same because we're afraid of failing or being rejected.
Yeah. But, as Proctor reminds us, those who play it safe, they often miss out on the greatest rewards.
Exactly. And he even cites the study of fighter pilots in World War II, which found that the pilots who were most cautious and risk-averse were actually more likely to be killed in combat.
Really? That's That's counterintuitive.
It is.
Right.
But it makes sense when you think about it. Those who are overly cautious were often hesitant to take evasive action or to seize opportunities, which ultimately made them more vulnerable.
So the pilots who survived and thrived were the ones who were willing to take risks.
Yes, calculated risks, to trust their instincts, and to act decisively.
So basically what Proctor's saying is we need to assess the situation, weigh the risks and rewards, and then take action.
Exactly, even if it feels a little scary.
Because often the greatest rewards are just outside of our comfort zone.
Right. And this concept of risk-taking leads nicely into another one of Proctor's key ideas, the razor's edge.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. The idea that small differences can create massive differences in outcomes.
Exactly. He uses the example of, the Olympic 100-meter dash, where fractions of a second can determine the winner, or even in horse racing, where a horse might win a race by just a nose, but that tiny difference can mean thousands of dollars in prize money.
Yeah. It's crazy how such a small margin can have such a significant impact.
Right, and Proctor's point is that the difference between success and mediocrity often lies in the details.
Yeah, like it's not always about some big grand gesture or revolutionary idea, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's about those small, consistent actions that add up over time.
Exactly. And he encourages readers to identify areas where they can apply a second effort, to push a little harder, go a little further, pay a little more attention to detail.
It's like finding those areas where we can make small but consistent improvements that can lead to significant results over time.
Right. And sometimes it's about recognizing and seizing those tiny opportunities that others might overlook.
Yeah, it really makes you think, like, where in my life could I apply that second effort to, get an edge, to make a real difference?
It's a question worth pondering, because those small distinctions, those moments where we choose to push a little harder or dig a little deeper, can often be the tipping point between achieving our goals and falling short.
And on that note, Proctor also warns against a habit that can really hold us back, thinking in reverse.
Oh, yeah. The tendency to dwell on past failures or limitations.
Yeah. He argues that this kind of thinking keeps us trapped in the past and prevents us from moving forward.
Yeah.
It's like we're always looking in the rearview mirror, seeing only the obstacles and setbacks instead of focusing on the road ahead.
Right. And he shares that moving story about Patty Moore, the woman who wanted to go on a South Sea cruise, but was constantly telling herself it was impossible.
Yeah, she was so focused on her past financial struggles that she couldn't even see a way to make it happen.
Right. And Proctor challenged her to shift her perspective.
Yeah.
To stop focusing on what is and start focusing on what could be.
Yeah, I like that.
He encouraged her to visualize herself already on that cruise, experiencing the joy and excitement of it. And you know what? Amazingly, she was able to make it happen.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is. It's a reminder that we have the power to create our own reality,
Yeah.
but we have to choose to let go of those old stories that are holding us back.
So it's not just about our actions, but our thoughts and beliefs as well.
Exactly. And sometimes it means letting go of that need to control every detail and trusting that the universe has our back, even when we can't see the path clearly.
Speaking of letting go, let's talk about one of the most unique concepts Proctor introduces, this vacuum law of prosperity.
Yes, this is a fascinating one. The idea that we need to create a void, to let go of what's no longer serving us in order to attract what we truly desire.
It's a principle that applies to all areas of our lives.
Mm.
Finances, relationships, health, even our physical belongings.
He tells that great story about his Aunt Marg, who desperately wanted new drapes, but was hesitant to get rid of her old ones because she didn't have replacements yet.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. And Proctor told her to just let go of the old drapes, right?
Right. He told her to trust that new ones would come.
And they did.
And they did. It's such a great illustration of how this vacuum law works. When we're willing to release what's no longer serving us, we create space for new abundance to flow into our lives.
So it's not just about letting go of physical things,
Yeah.
but also old beliefs,
Mm.
habits, even relationships that might be holding us back.
Exactly.
So the question is, what are we holding on to that might be blocking abundance in our lives?
Yeah. What are we clinging to that's preventing us from receiving the good that the universe has in store for us?
Those are powerful questions to think about.
They really are, because sometimes the most courageous act is the act of letting go.
And that's where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive into Born Rich by Bob Proctor.
It's tough,
Yeah.
to let go, especially when we're so attached to certain ways of thinking,
Right.
or being. But like Proctor suggests, clinging to what's no longer serving us, it just keeps us from, like, experiencing the fullness of life, you know?
It's like trying to hold on to water. The tighter you grip, the more slips through your fingers.
Exactly.
And that kind of brings us to another important concept that Proctor explores, these obstructions to growth.
Yeah.
He talks about how certain, like, negative beliefs and emotions can actually act as barriers to, achieving our goals and experiencing true abundance.
It's like having a garden hose with kinks in it.
Right.
No matter how much water pressure you have, the flow is going to be restricted until you get those kinks smoothed out.
I like that.
Yeah. And Proctor identifies these kinks as things like, doubt, fear, guilt, resentment, any thought that reinforces lack or limitation.
Yeah. And he argues that these, like, negative emotions and beliefs, they create a kind of energetic blockage
Yeah.
that prevents the flow of abundance into our lives.
Exactly. It's like putting up a dam.
Yeah.
You're stopping that natural flow.
And it's not just about thinking positive thoughts, right?
Yeah.
It's about recognizing and addressing, like, the deeper root causes of these negative patterns.
Right. Like, where do they come from? What experiences or beliefs are fueling them?
Yeah, it's about going beyond the surface, like
Mm.
doing that inner work to heal those wounds, to release those limiting beliefs, and to cultivate, a more empowering mindset.
Exactly. And he offers some really practical tools for doing this,
Yeah.
like affirmations, visualizations, gratitude practices.
Right.
It's about making that conscious choice to choose thoughts and behaviors that support our growth and well-being.
Yeah. And what's interesting is how he emphasizes the importance of not just thinking, but also feeling.
Uh-huh.
Like, he talks about cultivating that sense of inner peace, joy, and gratitude,
Yeah.
creating an emotional state that's, like, aligned with abundance.
Right. Because our emotions are like these powerful energy signals that we're sending out to the world, and they attract experiences that match their frequency.
Makes sense?
Right. If we're feeling stressed, anxious, resentful, we're just going to attract more of those kinds of situations. But if we can cultivate feelings of peace, joy, gratitude, we become magnets for more positive experiences.
So it's not just about thinking the right thoughts, but also feeling the right feelings.
Exactly.
It's about creating an inner state that's, like, congruent with the reality we want to experience.
Absolutely. And, one of the things I find so inspiring about Proctor's work is that he doesn't just focus on achieving, like, material wealth or external success.
Yeah.
He really emphasizes the importance of, like, personal growth and spiritual development.
Yeah, like tapping into our innate potential.
Right. Discovering our unique gifts, our talents, and using them to make a meaningful contribution to the world.
And reminding us that we're not here to just exist,
Right.
to just get by.
Right.
We're here to thrive, to create, to experience the fullness of life.
And that thriving requires us to step into our power. Right. To embrace our worthiness.
Yeah.
And to believe in those infinite possibilities that are available to us.
It's about remembering that we're not limited by our circumstances, but by our beliefs.
Exactly.
And when we shift our beliefs, we shift our reality.
That's powerful.
Yeah, it is.
And it is powerful. It really is. And that whole idea of shifting our beliefs and shifting our reality.
Yeah.
That leads us right into one of Proctor's most fascinating concepts, the vacuum law of prosperity.
Oh, yeah, the vacuum law. This is where things get really interesting. So what's that all about?
It's this idea that to attract what we really want, we need to create a void. Like, let go of what's no longer serving us,
Okay.
It's like, think of a closet packed with clothes. You can't bring in new clothes if there's no space.
Right.
And you got to clear out the old to make room for the new.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
But he's not just talking about physical stuff.
Right. No, not at all. He's talking about clearing out old beliefs, habits, even relationships that aren't aligned with who we are and where we want to go.
Oh, okay. So it's about, like, creating space on multiple levels.
Exactly.
Hmm.
It's about creating that energetic space for abundance to flow into our lives.
I see.
He tells this great story about his Aunt Marg. She desperately wanted these new drapes, but was so hesitant to get rid of her old ones.
Oh, yeah, I remember that story.
She didn't have replacements yet, you see. And Proctor encouraged her to just let go of those old drapes.
Trusting that new ones would come.
And they did.
It's amazing how it works out like that sometimes.
It is. It's a simple story, but it perfectly illustrates the point. When we're willing to let go, we create space for new abundance to come in.
So what's the takeaway for us?
The takeaway is to ask yourself, what are you holding on to that might be blocking abundance in your life?
Yeah, what are we clinging to that's preventing us from, like, receiving all the good stuff the universe has for us?
Yeah.
Exactly, because sometimes the most courageous act is simply letting go.
That's deep.
It is. And I think that's a great place to wrap up our deep dive into Born Rich.
Yeah, this has been a really insightful look at like the power of our thoughts and beliefs and how they
Yeah.
shape our reality.
Absolutely. Proctor gives us so many practical tools and strategies for, attracting abundance and creating a life we truly love.
Yeah. And if you're looking for more resources to help you on that journey, don't forget to check out lingopediamagazine.com.
They have tons of great courses and ebooks to really deepen your understanding.
So if you enjoyed this deep dive, please be sure to subscribe, share, and like this podcast.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of knowledge and inspiration.